Hi, I'm Andy Webb from BeCleverWithYourCash.com. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a money journalist, blogger, an all-round bit of a money geek, helping you find the ways to make the most from your money. Today, I want to talk to you about a way that most of us have paid at least once, if not more frequently, and it's PayPal. I'm going to have a look at the pros and cons of using this payment system and whether you should bother having it anymore, particularly in the light of two big developments. Number one, if you have what's called an inactive account, there's going to be a new charge applied to your account. I'll talk more about that later. But also that requirement to have PayPal for selling on eBay, that's also going. So at some point in 2021, if you're selling on eBay, you won't have to have PayPal. So with that in mind, is this something you should stick with or is it something that you should ditch? Now, if you're not quite sure what PayPal is, a quick summary, it basically is a digital wallet. Now, this is the digital wallet before we had things like Google Pay and Apple Pay and all that kind of stuff. Essentially, you have an account, an online account, and you connect it to your bank account or your credit cards or your debit cards. And that's how you use it to pay. So you could go to any kind of, many online retailers. You've got your option to pay by your credit card, your debit card, but you've also often got that option for PayPal. And I say this is before we had all these extra things coming along. That was one of the only kind of extra way you could pay. And you would click on that, make your payment, and it would log into your PayPal account, and then it would bring the money. You could choose whether you wanted to put it from your bank account or from one of your connected cards or from any money that might be sitting in that PayPal account, and then that payment would go through. You could also use it to pay people. So rather than paying retailers, it could be paying a mate. You owe them some money or you want to send them some money for their birthday or something, family member. If they've got a PayPal account, you could transfer the money over to them. And likewise, if they owed you some cash, maybe you've been out for a meal together or been away on a holiday and someone owed you a chunk of money, you could send that request through via PayPal to their account and they could just click a few buttons and send you the money back from their connected bank account or connected cards. Now, this was the only way of doing that until recently. You can do that in lots of other ways right now. But that's essentially, they're the three ways as a personal PayPal account that you're likely to use it or have used it. There's also a business account, but I'm not going to go into details on that. This is focused on you as an individual, as a punter, using it for your own spending. So that's basically what it is, how it works. Let's get into those pros. There's positive things that I think PayPal does pretty well that are kind of good reasons to use it. Number one is that security measure. I mentioned about how when you're shopping online, you pay via your PayPal account to a connected card. You think, well, why would you do that if you could pay by your card? Well, it is security. Essentially, if you are going to a website you're not so sure about what it is, or maybe you're not comfortable shopping online full stop, and you don't want to put your bank card details into this website, just in case hackers were to get hold of it or something like that, or it's a dodgy website in the first place. If you use your PayPal account, all you're doing is you're logging into PayPal. That has its own security login measures. You can put in double authentication there to make sure you're using the proper PayPal login and not some sort of dodgy copy. And then you use that underlying card. That website that you're paying from, you're shopping from, will never see those card details. So it's a really good way to help protect your purchases. Now, it's also a very, very, very fast way to pay and a very convenient way to pay. I don't know about you, sometimes if I'm sitting on the sofa, I've got my laptop, I'm shopping for something, I haven't got my wallet on me, I haven't got my cards on me, so I can literally just log in, pay without having to sort of get up and get the wallet. Okay, I appreciate it might only be sort of 10 feet away, but it's still kind of a fast and convenient way to pay. So that's another big positive for using PayPal, although I should say obviously there are more services doing a similar thing now, so you might not have to use PayPal for that. You might be able to use Google Pay, or you might have your card details stored on your computer. I personally don't do that, but you can do that as well. Now, one of the main reasons that I tend to use PayPal if I'm shopping is so I can use my American Express credit card. Now, I love Amex. If you haven't already checked out my video or review the best of the two cashback cards, do check that out. Essentially, I pay with an American Express cashback credit card as much as I can to earn money back on my purchases. Most places will take American Express nowadays. That list of places that don't take it is getting smaller and smaller, but you still will find some retailers who only take Visa and MasterCard. So to still get my cash back, if there's a PayPal option, I often tend to click that PayPal option and pay with PayPal and fund that payment with Amex. Because basically what you're doing when you're using PayPal is you are paying PayPal and PayPal is paying the retailer, okay? So that's a nice little trick, nice little hack to still earn cash back on your points via Amex when the website doesn't take Amex. I will get down to the flip side of that, which is a negative point for doing exactly that same thing, but I'll get to that in a minute. Now, something you might not know about PayPal is that it has its own offers section. Now these come and go. A lot of the time they aren't up to much, but every now and again you'll see something which is pretty good. So at the time of filming this, there's an offer where if you spend £30 at 3 different retailers, they've got to be participating retailers, only a small number of retailers, but there's some big ones on there like ASOS and Waterstones. They give you £20 credit back to your PayPal account. These things come and go, as I say, they don't last all year round, but it's worth having a look at that. If you didn't know it existed, head on to the offers tab in your account. It's easiest to find that if you log in on a browser rather than your phone, but it's there all the same. See what's there, see if you're eligible for it. You often have to activate the offer to take advantage of it, but it's a nice way to save a little bit more. Something else which I only recently discovered exists on PayPal is something called Moneypool, and I really like this idea. This essentially is a way to crowdfund for friends and family. Now this would have been perfect when we got married, because rather than ask for gifts, we asked people to contribute towards our honeymoon. Now that meant actually then putting in checks or cash in their cards if they chose to do that. But with something like a Moneypool, it'd be very easy to say, look, here's the link. Here you can put in the amount of money you would like to give. You can make it anonymous. You can put in a little name and a message if you want to. It's basically a bit like when you give fundraising on Virgin Giving or Just Giving, something like that. But it's to help you raise money for something like that. Or potentially maybe you're going away as a group for a holiday, group of mates going away, and you want to have a little kitty fund. You could all put, if you wanted, transfer in 50 quid into that kitty, and then you've got that amount of money is there at the end, which you're going to split for that cost, something like that. I think it's a really great idea. There are no charges to set it up, there are no charges to put money in, and there's no charge to use the cash. So that's the Moneypool. That's another really good benefit. And there's one more thing which I think is worth considering about PayPal, which we haven't got in the UK just yet. I'm hoping we'll see it at some point in 2021. This is a virtual card. They're calling it PayPal Key. Now it's been launching very slowly in America, rolling out to certain people. They have to sort of find out if they've been given early access to it yet. So it isn't even fully released in America yet. But essentially a virtual card is a way that you can use your PayPal even if the website doesn't accept PayPal. Essentially, it creates a long card number and the expiry date and the little 3 digits that you need to authorize any card payment. And this is basically one that you can change at any time. So if, again, those dodgy websites, if you don't want to put your card details in and it doesn't accept the normal PayPal, you could get this virtual card, put that payment details in, and again, your money is protected. They're not going to get access to it. And you can change those details. Again, you can stop it at any point. So if something does go wrong, if for some reason those details are hacked, no money is going to be taken from you. So that hasn't come out yet in the UK, but I think it's a nice innovation. Normally you only see these things in premium bank accounts. Monzo Premium, for example, you get some of these virtual cards, but this is a nice way to get hold of this and use this feature. So fingers crossed we'll see that in the not too distant future. So they're the key positives, they're the main good reasons for using PayPal. But what about those negatives? What about the cons? Now the biggest one here, and I briefly alluded to it before, if you are using PayPal, you are losing access to one of the biggest consumer right protections that we have here in the UK. You've probably heard of Section 75 already. This is Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act. And basically what this means, if you're using a credit card to make a payment for something which costs more than £100, there's an upper cap too, but most of us were really focused on that kind of just over 100 quid. Even if you don't pay the full 100 quid, you could pay just a penny or a pound or a tenner of that total, but even just part of it, what it makes is that credit card company equally liable for any losses or problems that might occur as the provider, as the retailer. Now this is fantastic, and this is enshrined in law, okay? So this is absolutely, if you can't, let's say a company goes bust, you haven't got the service that you wanted, the thing hasn't been delivered, or the accommodation you were going to use is shut down so you can't go for your holiday. Section 75 will mean the credit card company will give you that money back. It is fantastic, okay? It's really, really, really good bit of legislation that helps protect us as consumers. You don't get that with PayPal. I mentioned before how when you're using PayPal, you are paying PayPal and PayPal is paying the supplier, the retailer, whoever it is. What that therefore means is you are breaking that link between you and the retailer, and that's so important for Section 75. Now, it's all a bit of grey areas here. Potentially there's a chance you might be able to make a claim if that happened for you. But if you are buying something where you think there's potentially a risk that something could go wrong, you're not sure about the website, you've heard maybe they're in danger of going bust or whatever it might be, or it's a lot of money, then I would just pay with a credit card and avoid PayPal completely. Now, obviously, if it's less than 100 quid, Section 75 doesn't exist. You can look at something called Chargeback, and you can still make a chargeback claim via PayPal. And PayPal also has its own buyer protection service, which will give you back the money, and it will give you back the delivery costs as well. Again, if something has gone wrong, you have to put in a claim and it looks at it. If it's a legitimate thing, that shouldn't be bad. It seems to have quite good ratings in terms of coming back to you. However, it's not as strong when it comes down to fraud. So for example, you've probably heard these horror stories. You buy something on eBay, something quite expensive, and you open it up when it arrives, and rather it being that, I don't know what it is, that PlayStation 5, actually what you've got inside is a couple of bricks, okay? So the weight is the same, the box is the right size, but you have not got what you paid for. Now that's an extreme example, although I did hear rumours of that happening when the PlayStation 5 launched. If the seller has got proof of selling, which could just be the proof that they posted it, not what was in there, the proof they posted something, then you might miss out. So scammers, it's not as strong as the other protections that are available to you. So just bear that in mind. There are protections, but you lose that best protection out there. Now, sticking with scammers, they love PayPal. I don't know about you, but if I get some spam email in my inbox, right? Although actually my filter's pretty good, so it often does go to that spam folder. But more than any other kind of brand, you see ones like for TV license quite a lot. I see them for Amazon quite a lot. But one of the things I see more than anything is from PayPal, or people pretending to be from PayPal. They love it. And basically there are two things they're trying to do here. They're either trying to get you to share your login details so they can then hack your PayPal account and steal the money from it, or they're going to try and get you to send some money to another address as a test or whatever it might be. Now, for a start, most of the time, if that kind of stuff then comes along, you should be wary about it. I know people panic and stuff, but most of the time, if it's something like that, be a bit wary. I mean, they might try and be a bit more subtle about it and just say, hey, log in for this, log in for that. I do this with any email I get, but I particularly pay attention to anything that says it's from PayPal. You can look for the obvious signs. So does it say dear customer? Apparently with PayPal, if they always address you by your name, right? You can look for spelling mistakes, some sort of grammatical errors that would suggest this isn't the real thing. But the easiest way, the best way to do this is to hover over and click on the sender's email address. Now, I haven't got a PayPal scam email on me right now, but I have got this one from Amazon, but not from Amazon. And you'll see this is what you do. If you're on your tab, just hover over that name that was sent from, click on it, open it up, and it will give you the actual underlying email address. If you want a desktop, it's a similar thing. Just double click on it and it will pop up. And you can see that is not a real email address. It's going to come from @paypal.com. That's what you would expect an email from PayPal to come from. If it's not that, it is not from PayPal, okay? But be really extra careful with scammers and PayPal. If you've got an account, you think there's a good chance you might look at one of these and think it is legitimate. Most of the time, they aren't. Now, I think we're going to see a lot more of these scammer emails attempt to try and get into your account because of something that PayPal is introducing in December 2020. And basically, it's an inactivity fee. So if you haven't used your PayPal account to send money, receive money, or make a payment in a 12-month period, or if you just haven't even logged in for 12 months, then they will charge you a £9 fee. What's going to be £12 sounds like it's now going to be down to £9, right? Now, that money, that fee they'll charge you will come from the money that's sitting in the account. They won't take it from your connected bank account or connected debit card. So if you have, let's say there's 15 quid in that account, they'll take £9 away from that. But what they won't do is take more than you have. So if you only have £4 in there, they'll only take £4. And if you have nothing, well, they won't take anything at all. So there are a few very simple things you can do to make sure you avoid this new fee. One of them, just log in once a year. Put a note in your diary to make sure you've done this, okay? Every 12 months, you've logged in, you won't get charged a fee. But also, don't have any money sitting in there. Now, obviously, you might not realise that sometimes a refund might come through, a payment might come through, and you might not realise the cash is there. But if you've got no cash in there, you can't get charged. So do those two things. Now, the reason I think this might encourage scammers over the sort of coming months and years is because PayPal will email you 60 days and then 30 days before that charge will be levied to you for an inactive account. So if you're getting these emails and you know these emails might come, well, then the scammers might also test that. So people like me telling you about this, that might make you more aware and more likely to check an email that comes through that says something similar. So just double check that it is a legitimate PayPal email before you actually click anything. Okay, so just be really careful about that. But there's no point paying that fee or even part of that fee because you don't have to. Just log in once a year, sorry. You can also, if you don't want to, if you know you're not going to use PayPal at all, you can close your account down completely. Now, another way that scammers might try and take advantage of you on PayPal is when you're asked to send money. So there are two ways that you can send money. You can pay money to a friend. Talked about that earlier on. Send the money to them, nice and simple. No fees, no charges. or you can pay for a service or pay a business. When you do that, the business, the person you're paying, will have to pay fees to PayPal. So the money to them, they won't get all of it. Some of that will go to PayPal. Now this becomes a problem because sometimes you get businesses saying to you, look, rather than doing that route, if you don't mind paying us as a friend, sending the money, it won't, we'll knock a little bit of money off, we'll save you a bit of cash because it means we won't have to pay the fees. So it's win-win for both of us. And you might think, yeah, why not? Well, what's the harm in doing that? The problem is if you pay someone as a friend, there is no PayPal buyer protection. You don't have any of their additional rights to seek a refund if something's gone wrong. And what you might find is that this is a scammer. They don't actually have anything to sell you at all. Now you might see this, on eBay or maybe on something like Airbnb, and you're chatting to the seller and they sort of say, let's take it offline and we'll do it privately. Be really aware that if you do that, then you have no protections at all for your payment. So if you're paying a business, just always say you're going to pay them via that fee. And if it costs them a bit of money, it costs them a bit of money, but at least you'll have that extra protection. Now, a couple more things that I'm not a fan of with PayPal. One of them, it's very difficult to use it in shops, so you can't really rely on it. I mean, occasionally you'll see a retailer that will take it, and if they do, it's quite smart. They produce a little QR code that you scan with a PayPal app, and then you can just pay like that. In theory, it's very quick. But how much faster is that than just getting out your card and tapping it? Okay, so that's a bit of a wasted thing. It's not a bad thing, but it's a waste. Don't expect to be able to use it on the high street. This is really much more about an online payment method. It's also not a great way to send money in other currencies. The conversion rate is not fantastic. When I've done this before, like buying things and I had to send money across, the rate has not been as good. Now, I've not looked into this in detail, but if you are thinking of using a service to send money to someone abroad from, converting from pounds into dollars or euros or yen or whatever it might be, do your research. Look at all the different platforms that are out there, because I bet they're going to be a better option than using PayPal. And finally, the last thing that I'm not really a fan of with PayPal is how much they push credit, how easy it is for you to borrow. Now, you'll probably see this quite often when you're at checkout, you've got your PayPal, but also underneath it, you say PayPal credit. And often it will try and push you to 0%. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. 0% credit can be useful for big expensive purchases that you need to spread the cost out. So for example, getting a new iPhone, a lot of people aren't going to have the cash to buy that outright. But if you get 0%, whether that's PayPal, whether it's direct with Apple, whether it's on a 0% purchase credit card, and you spread that out over a couple of years, that can be a good thing. But I've seen situations here, examples where people have just gone, oh right, yeah, I'll take out that credit, and I do it, and it mounts up and it mounts up and it mounts up. For some reason, they think of it a little bit differently than they would credit card debt or other debt. So I'm not a fan of that, how easy they make it just with a few clicks to get credit on a purchase without having really considered what it means. And that's going to get worse because PayPal are going to be launching their own buy now, pay later service like Klarna. They're pay-in-free service. Now, these are, they're not really regulated. I'm not a fan of these at all. Time for probably a video another time to talk about those in detail. But that's going to make it even easier for you to use PayPal to pay for something on credit. And there won't be any credit checks or anything like that. So again, I'm not a fan of how easy they make it to get credit in the first place. This is going to make it even easier. So that's a long list of negatives, much longer than the positives that I sort of outlined. So does that suggest that actually PayPal is bad and you shouldn't be using it? Well, do you know what? Not really, because those negatives, they're important for you to know about them. It's important that you understand where you could get caught out or potentially could miss out. And if you avoid those, you take the proper precautions to make sure you don't open the scammers' emails. You make sure that if something costs more than £100, you use a credit card separately, not via PayPal. Then most of those negatives are getting wiped out. Really, I think PayPal is just another one of those options you've got. It's never going to be something you use for everything, partly because it's rubbish for using it in shops, but also you won't always need to. But it's nice to have it there for that extra measure of security, for that convenience, for things like the Moneypool, which I really like. Excited about this virtual card feature if and when it comes to the UK. So I think it's well worth having an account. It's well worth having it, something that you've got that option to use it. Just make sure if you do have it but don't use it very often, that you don't get hit by that new fee. Now, if you want more information about any of this, I have got a full article review over on the blog. I will link to it up here so you can click through to it. And if you have found this useful, if you think I've saved you money or helped you better manage your money, please hit that like button and then hit subscribe and that notification bell as well. It all makes a huge amount of difference to make sure, for a start, you don't miss any of these videos that I do in the future, but helps me grow the channel as well and reach more people. Until next time, cheers. And here are a couple more videos you might find interesting.